Well, let's bring this down to a kind of more practical level. You know, both of us have lived in the Middle East and in Muslim majority contexts. And a lot of Muslims think they know, they suppose that they know that the Quran clearly refutes the doctrine of the Trinity. There's a verse saying not three. Um, I may add my own comments on that later on, but just in practical ministry, just practical conversation as someone who is engaged in interreligious dialogue, in ministry to refugees. I assume that a good number of them are from an Islamic background or some sort of Islamic background. How do you deal with these questions? It's not really a question of proselytism. It's just a question of how do we try to explain our own faith to people who oftentimes come to us as Christian ministers with these questions.
Yeah, if there's a lot of things I'm not expert on, that's probably one of the leading ones. Is like, how do you bring the truth and the experience of Trinity across that boundary? Where I think it's challenging for more than one reason. One reason is God should blow our minds, and He does. So He is beyond our categories. And that part shouldn't be hard for a Muslim to accept. that part should be right down center lane. But then it's also difficult because, as I made reference to earlier, the whole idea of monotheism as Islam understands it, to my mind, it's not just that it's got its own flavor, but it grew up in a context surrounded by Judaism and Christianity. And much of the fundamental ideas of the oneness of God in Islam was formed in reaction to and reaction against Christian thinking that was already in the area. So there's sort of an inoculation that goes in at the ground floor. And so that makes the communication of the oneness of God, who happens to be three, across that barrier. It makes it even harder. And I'm no expert. And I know one thing that many people will do is grasp after analogies. And I don't think that's a rubbish enterprise. I think it depends a lot on the kind of person and interaction you're having, because Christians speaking to Christians, I think, are going to have to admit all analogies are deeply limited. Deeply limited. Some are better than others. Some are deeply flawed, but all of them are deeply limited because analogies between the creator and those beings which are contingent, like us, created beings, they're always going to be, these are not my words, but they're going to be a point of likeness in a greater unlikeness. And so that can make communicating them difficult. But once again, that part again should be right down the center alley for Islam. If there's anything true about Islamic thoughts of God, is that He's great, He's transcendent, He's way beyond us. And so the struggle with analogies shouldn't be surprising. I would tend to say, if you're in an apologetic argument, which is not my domain, but if you are, analogies probably aren't going to help you very much because they're too easy to pick apart. But if you have someone who's hungering, who's truly interested, who thinks, okay, maybe there's something there, whether I agree with this Christian or not, it's not just that they're stupid. They may be seeing or feeling or experiencing or believing something that's worth learning about, then maybe an analogy can open some doors, and we could talk about that if we wanted to. But that's one limitation. So I think for me, maybe two things come to mind, and these aren't magic bullets. One of them is to begin by trying to communicate that language of Trinity, if it's understood superficially or without sympathy, without a presumption that this person doesn't mean to be deceptive, if it's understood in a hostile way, then it's just construed as like stupid math, like 1 + 1 + 1 = 1, and that's just not really fair to thoughtful believers. Let's say, for the sake of argument, they could be wrong, but they know that that's stupid math. So there may be something there if we're willing to listen. And so I think task one would be kind of trying to help your interlocutor, the one you're talking with, see that however complex the issue may appear to be in the conversation, they must not doubt that we too are fully convinced there is and only ever has been one God, and He's the creator God. So what we are disputing is, what is the nature of God? There is nothing to do with a multiplicity of gods here. And that monotheism line needs to be something we need to be better at articulating and convicted of ourselves, because here I think there really is harmony. That is, no matter how amazing, surprising, subversive, unexpected God may be when he reveals himself to us, we're absolutely convinced from beginning to end that there is a line between the creator and all he has made. And there, by definition, can't be creators. There is a creator. So, and I could keep going on to say how I might try to do that, but the point is, we've got to convince our interlocutor in good faith that we're absolutely committed to the absolute transcendent uniqueness of the one creator God, and we're all his creatures, we're all dependent. That's the line, and we don't remotely believe in violating that. Now, we do find that there's something really surprising and beautiful about who that creator is revealed to be, a mysterious community of love. That's beautiful. And a Muslim might have a hard time accepting that, but we're fully convicted. We're still talking about the only one God there ever is and was. And that brings me to the second way that I would want to approach it. And it's not so much an intellectual argument of, let me prove to you that 1 + 1 + 1 is 1, not that, but rather to say, when you understand that the one God acts and has revealed himself in this way, this community of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it has dramatic, life-giving consequences for those who come to know him through Christ.